Hello, fellow Beyond the Gates viewers. Here to talk about August 12th and August 13th episodes this week, the past 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday episodes. Not my favorite episodes, I know some soap opera fans don't like it when you're too critical of a soap opera, but sometimes I just can't hold back. In fact, I never hold back on this channel. And I'm not going to hold back today. The last few weeks of Beyond the Gates have been either boring or exasperating. And that's how I feel about these past two episodes. Let's start with the Naomi June storyline. And my problem with this storyline, it's not necessarily a bad storyline at all, but it is very, very, very boring. And I guess you can say predictable as well. It turned out in yesterday's episode when Naomi had June and her sister Regina meet again, Jacob came back with information that June's children were in fact Samantha and Tyrell. And so, of course, that is surprising information to Naomi. And that was what we all kind of predicted. I just think that they could have made this whole June storyline far more interesting if it would have been a different direction. There was speculation about Hayley for the longest time. Maybe it'd be tied to Hayley. I don't know if that necessarily would have been interesting either, but I think it would have been more interesting than this. And then today, Naomi decides that she and Jacob need to bring this information to Smitty and Martin. And of course, Smitty and Martin have been already going through problems because of Martin's secret and him keeping that from Smitty all these last couple of years. So they already have relationship problems. And of course, the kids are upset that they're already having relationship problems. And then Naomi decides that she needs to dump this info on the two as well. And Martin is talking about how this was supposed to be a closed adoption and the past was not supposed to be dug up like this. And I don't think Naomi should have pushed this so soon. In these scenes, Naomi's telling Martin and Smitty to take their time to discuss this with the family, to decide if the kids should go back and meet their mother that gave them away. But I don't feel like Naomi really thought about this either. And this is the same Naomi that is always, if her mother or her grandparents want her to hide something, she's definitely gung-ho to hide it for them. But in this instance, it seems like she chose this June person over her cousins, Martin and Smitty. So I think Naomi maybe did cross the line today, and I just don't know if I have enough belief in Naomi's drive to help June so much. Like, Naomi's kind of become obsessed with helping June, who clearly has some problems. And I guess maybe this is just us supposed to see Naomi as this sweet, helpful character, maybe. I guess that's what they're going for. My other big problem with the story in general is just the ages of Samantha and Tyrell, which is also kind of a problem for Beyond the Gates in general. With the ages of the characters, they've been all messed up, whether it comes to the actual ages of the characters. Why does Martin seem like he should be the son of Vernon and Anita and not Nicole and Ted? Or, just the casting is, why did they cast a 30-year-old to play Samantha? Always been a problem with the show when it comes to ages. But when it comes to Tyrell and Samantha, who are now 17, 16, pushing 18, it's just like, where do we go from here with the story? Like, what's really interesting about these now adult kids going back to see their mom? Tyrell today had all these memories of their mother trying to make him take care of Samantha when they were younger. Plus, they were adopted when they were like 8 and 9. And I don't really know how Naomi didn't recognize them in Regina's picture. But whatever. There's some holes in the story, and it's just been too predictable. and completely boring. So I haven't really enjoyed that the past two episodes. The Leslie and Eva stuff the past two episodes also kind of comes off as pointless. Like, I'm sure it's going to lead to something, but them, like Eva pushing her mother to follow up on this mail that Leslie got, that could be a scam, could just be junk mail, but it's about a supposed inheritance that Leslie might get. Of course, all the speculation online is that somehow Leslie will be related to Barbara, the now deceased member of the Articulates, which I mean, I don't mind that twist, and it brings Leslie back into Anita's orbit, which I think will make for good TV. But these scenes leading up to it just aren't very interesting. Like Eva pushing her mom to call this number when even Tomas told Eva that letters like this in the mail most of the time are scams. So of course when Leslie calls the number, it's going to seem like a scam. But I guess we do need some build to whatever they're going to go with this story with the inheritance that Leslie might get. I get that we have to start somewhere with it, but it's just not. It hasn't been very interesting. And then you put it on the same episodes of this June, Naomi, Tyrell, and Samantha stuff, and it adds to the boringness. I didn't say that at the end of the day, Samantha and Tyrell did decide that they do want to see their mom, so I'm sure we're going to get those riveting scenes at some point this week or next week. Now, another thing that happened in yesterday's episode was Bill and Hayley and the doctor that I guess Hayley must be paying off to make it seem like she really did lose a baby. We saw an interaction with this doctor and Hayley once before, and now again yesterday. This is more of Hayley's plot to, I guess, convince Bill that she was actually pregnant and did actually lose the baby. This doctor telling them that she can't try again for another baby in 3 months. I still say what I said on Monday's video. I need to know Hayley's point in doing all of this. Like, what is the direction? What does she actually want from this? What is she gaining from this? Because without us knowing that, it's hard for me to bite into this storyline as well. So that was another one yesterday that kind of left me exasperated. But I guess they had to do something to make Bill still believe Hayley in this whole plot of hers. That was really all yesterday. Today we had two other storylines. We had more of Tomas and Kat and their salsa dancing. At first they had no chemistry in their dancing, so the teacher was not happy because there was no passion. Shocking that there was no passion out of Tomas. I don't know if that was the writers actually writing something realistic and that Tomas shows no passion ever. But then Kat and the teacher danced the salsa dancing, and they had chemistry with their dancing. And after that, that seemed to wake Tomas up. And then Tomas and Kat did have a good dance together, which eventually led to them having sex again. And once again, much like the first time when Kat lost her virginity, Tomas was smitten after sex, and Kat was clearly not happy or feeling it. I'm not sure which one. You know, the first time they slept together, it definitely seemed like Kat only slept with him to try and keep him away from Eva. This go around, they sleep together again, and she doesn't seem satisfied, or I guess maybe she just... There's speculation she could be asexual, I suppose. I don't know if that's where they go. I don't think an American soap opera has ever dealt with that, so that would be interesting. British soap operas have done that before. Emmerdale definitely has, and maybe even Hollyoaks, if I remember correctly. But that could be an interesting direction for Kat. I don't necessarily feel like that's where they're going. I think this is just Kat continuing to have regret that Tomas is the man she's sleeping with, and this is the show still showing us that they aren't meant to be, and they don't have chemistry, which we already know because Tomas doesn't have chemistry with anyone. And that's just something I need this show to really start fixing. We are approaching the 6th month mark, and they need to start fixing their weaknesses. And one of the biggest weaknesses is there's no real couple to root for, period. But like couples with chemistry, I need a couple with chemistry. That's something in soap operas that I do like. At least American soap operas, it's a staple. So I hope they can figure something out there, because this show doesn't have it. Which leads me to my last story to talk about, and that is Chelsea and Madison. They don't necessarily not have chemistry. The problem continues to be with the whole bringing Allison all the time to always interrupt Chelsea and Madison and interfere every time they're on a date. She tried again today. Chelsea recognized this as another attempt to come between her and Madison. Allison played the victim with Chelsea, saying how, oh, Chelsea doesn't care about how Craig is treating her. But Chelsea tried to let Allison down again, only for Allison to come back and warn Madison that Chelsea is a selfish, two-faced bitch. And then Madison didn't care. Madison and Chelsea stayed calm with Allison being crazy. And then Allison left, allegedly, but really was watching Madison and Chelsea kiss after. The character of Allison is just kind of a caricature in this storyline, because they didn't do a proper build to this in the first place. We only had a few scenes at the beginning of this show with Allison and Chelsea together, and now they're just turning her psycho. And I don't mind this plot, especially compared to a lot of other plots in the show right now that I'm not feeling. Like, I need the show in general to make me care about some of these stories again. This one, at least, even though it's plot driven like a lot of them have become, I can appreciate a psycho. I think that's where I am when it comes to soap operas. I can appreciate a psycho on a soap opera, so I'm not necessarily like out of it when it comes to this storyline, but they still could have done a much better build to make it a much better storyline. But yeah, like outside of Doug, Vanessa, Joey, Randy stuff, that's kind of the only story I am somewhat invested in right now, because they can continue to take some interesting twists and turns there. Everything else needs some work. And when it comes to couples to root for, I feel like I only have Bill and Danny as one of the only couples I could root to get together. But they need to make Bill actually put in work for me to root for that, because he's been the asshole in that situation. Right now he's falling for Hayley's schemes. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully the rest of the week gets better. We know Leslie's going to get a visitor by the preview that hopefully spices up whatever this build has been between her and Eva these past 2 episodes. Outside of that, I don't know if we'll get anything interesting this week. Hopefully we get some Doug, Vanessa, Joey, or Randy at some point this week as well.